Chapter 8. I wanted to scream as the Fenris stepped forward. My own siblings starved to the point of insanity, but now I understood both sides. There was sorrow and happiness, pain and elation, doubt and friendship. I placed a hand on my chest and realized, even outside of Jackie's body, I had changed. I could still feel. I looked down and saw the emotions coiling out of my chest like ropes. The Fenris growled, all four of them on their feet, approaching Alejandro and the others, teeth bared, growling with the sound of grinding stones. I reached down and grabbed a purple strand of emotion. I swung it around the way I would play with a strand of sorrow before sucking on it. I'd been told more than once not to play with my food, but now my own emotions were a physical thing. I knew what to do. I would make sure Alejandro didn't fail. I would fulfill my contract with Jackie Baxter, and I would give my friends a second chance at life. I would do all of that without a single reward or any thanks. I would do it because I wanted to, but the truth was, they'd already given me everything I could have hoped for, and this next part would be fun. Two Fenris leaped at Alejandro at once. He was fast and agile and managed to twist around in time so that the claws missed his chest. The four friends attacked the other Fenris, hitting and swinging garbage at it, confusing its senses and making it retreat a few steps. Alejandro turned and swung his sword, driving back the beast before it could hurt the ordinaries. A third Fenris leaped at Alejandro's back. I whipped out one of my emotional strands, flipping my wrist and pulling with a quick jerk. The emotion wrapped around the neck of the Fenris, pulling it to the ground. I used another emotion like a lasso, catching the front legs of another Fenris. I jumped over Alejandro and hog-tied the Fenris with a red strand of emotion. I used my essence to darken the area, making it hard for the Fenris to see. Alejandro fought two Fenris at once, slashing through the air with the green blade, pushing the Fenris back toward the edge of the camp. I used a strand of emotion to pick up Jackie Baxter where she'd fallen on the ground. Her phone floated in front of her for an instant before her instincts kicked in. She grabbed the phone and started filming. The four friends received a helpful push from me, and they attacked the beast that lay tied by my emotions. Alejandro stabbed one Fenris through the head and swung around to catch the other one in the heart. He stood tall as he pulled out his sword, the essence of the Fenris scattering into dust around him. The fourth and final Fenris tried to lunge at Alejandro, but my emotions were still wrapped around its throat. Alejandro looked at Jackie, but then he followed the thread of emotion to look straight at me. The four ordinaries, using their makeshift weapons, delivered a final strike, and the third Fenris disintegrated. Alejandro followed the guidance of his fate thread to cut the throat of the last beast. My essence shuddered as my emotion threads snapped back into me, but I stayed together. Neither Fenris nor sorrow-hungry demon. I was something else, and I had Alejandro to thank for it. Jackie Baxter held her phone steady, recording the video that would get her over 1 million views. I had a little bit of work left to do, but it could wait a moment. My essence was tired. Ha! Tired. That was an emotion, wasn't it? I sat on a bench near the edge of the sidewalk and watched Alejandro and the four ordinaries pat each other on the back, shaking hands and hugging. Alejandro wandered over to the bench I sat on, his face smudged with the black essence of the Fenris, his forehead sweaty from the battle. His fate thread nudged him, and he pulled a book from the pocket of his jacket, a small book of poems by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He set it on the bench, stood up, and walked away. I only rested for a moment. The recording Jackie took on her phone went viral. I confess, I probably watched it 100 times myself. The video was watched and shared with the label Heroes from the Trenches. I may have snuck into the phone and doctored the video just a little. There was no sign of Alejandro and his descendant weapon, only the Fenris and the bravery of the four friends as they saved the camp. Alejandro waited at the edge of the camp, standing like a guardian, blade by his side. The descendants came to clean up the mess, conveniently late. I watched from the park bench as the descendant shook Alejandro's hand, welcoming him to the Vale to train as a guardian. Alejandro nodded his acceptance and turned to follow the descendant to his car. He really was leaving to fight on the other side. We'd meet again, but I didn't know what that meeting would look like or where I'd be standing when the final battle came. Alejandro stopped and glanced back, looking straight at me one last time. He was good enough without proving it, but he was ready to make the world a better place exactly the way he was. I used a blue strand of emotion to open the book of poems and turn the page. To anyone watching, it would look like the brush of a breeze. Then I started to read, my strands of emotion growing brighter as I felt the words in the poems, catching a tear as I quietly said goodbye to the boy who had changed me, reveling in the taste of my own sorrow. This has been a production of Night Nook Publishing. All rights reserved. Thank you for listening.